So instead of like a 7, 8, 4, I would do like an 8, 9, 5, or a 10, 12, 6, or something like that. Just so that I was elongating each part of the breath, but I would keep my mind really, really stable while I was doing it. Today was actually the first time I ever got down to a 1-minute breath. And what I was doing today, just to put it on video, was I was counting, let me think what I was doing. My in-breath was my in-breath was 9. The top of my breath at the pause was 18. The exhale was 9. And then the pause was about 6, somewhere in there. And that ended up being like a 1-minute breath. You don't have to get down that low. You really don't. The only reason I'm working it is that 4 to 6 breaths a minute now is really easy for me. So I was getting down to 2 breaths a minute, and I thought, why not try, right? But that's the idea. So when you're doing your life and death Qigong, slowing your body down is the key in order to get the most benefit out of it. And something to think about is when I breathe in, right, this expands. When I'm at the top of the breath, pausing, reach through each of the fingers individually, right? So if I'm pausing, say I'm pausing for 10, what I'll do is I'll reach through my thumb, index, middle finger, ring finger, pinky finger, thumb, index. And that way I'm actually stretching each of the meridians, okay? I'm opening up the palms a little bit more. And then I'll contract and close them again. One of the reasons this is considered a life and death Qigong has to do with what the hands do at the beginning of life and at the end of life. When babies are born, their fists are clenched. And one of the first things a paramedic looks for in a car accident victim when they come to the scene is whether or not their hands have done this, because your body actually opens from the inside when you die. Okay, and it's actually one of the kind of things that'll let you know what's going on. So you're actually activating life and death here. And what's interesting is that it's kind of in reverse. Because when I breathe in, which you would associate with the act of being alive, you physically make the motion of dying. And when you breathe out, the physical motion of dying, or physical motion of being born, is with like your last breath as you die, right? So you've got a yin-yang paradox taking place, right? You breathe in as you die, you breathe out as you live. So it's really interesting because if you think about it on a physiological level, your body wants to do one while the other is happening, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you? Yeah, okay. So it's a really nice example of yin and yang, really nice example of yin-yang interchange. And a lot of the students that I've taught it to, and myself for the first few months that I did it, my breath would actually switch. Have you had that happen to you? Yeah. Where you'll be breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out, and you kind of get lost in it, and suddenly you're breathing in and then breathing out. Because your body, I think, wants to do this. This is natural in a way, right? But what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the yin-yang reversal to be natural. That's why training exists, right? If you don't do the training, then you'll act just like everybody else. So you live and die like everybody else. That's why we train. We train to live longer, healthier lives. We train to have calmer minds. We train to be able to deal with conflict differently than other people. If we were able to do all of that stuff naturally, we wouldn't have to train anything. That's why all this stuff exists, right? So while a certain point of view could say, well, then you're doing an unnatural breath. Well, yeah, you could say that. Yeah, I am. Because I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to not be like everybody else. I'm trying to live a longer life. Hopefully that makes some sense. So what I recommend is if you're going to work on this breath control, now that you've gone through all these other videos, right, ideally, put a timer up that you can see. But don't count your breaths to the timer, okay? What you're doing is you're doing your internal count, that 7-8-4 ratio, and you're just watching to see how long a breath takes. So if a breath is 20 seconds, great. I'm going to slow my counting down a little bit. Or if I'm feeling lightheaded, which happens to, I'm going to speed my count up a little bit. That kind of thing, right? Because I'm not oxygenating enough. You have to be really careful. You're reprogramming how you breathe. That's a pretty big deal. So review. Do Buddhist breathing, so the entire body expands when you breathe in and then contracts when you breathe out. 7 inhalation, 8 pause, 4 exhalation, and then maybe a pause at the bottom, whatever feels comfortable. And then either expand your counting so that your mind doesn't get too confused, or just slow the count down and watch your timer and see if you can get down to that 4 to 6 breaths a minute. All right, life and death Qigong.